Now is Shadow Sports Minister Don Farrell. Don, good morning to you. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. So 160 grand for that report. Should taxpayers have funded that?
That's an Olympics sport, and I guess we don't have a problem with the sports clubs receiving money for any of these grants. But the problem here, Peter, is the way in which the government has administered these grants, and in particular the way the Sports Minister has administered it. The government announced that it would have a fair and independent assessment of sporting requirements for clubs right across Australia. Over 2,000 applicants put in an application for the grant. They thought it was ridgy-dig, above board, and that they were going to get fair treatment in terms of their application. What happened was, in fact, hundreds of clubs which had been approved by Sport Australia were then rejected and replaced by hand-picked grants from the Minister. And that's the real problem here. Australians expect their sportsmen and women to play honestly. They should expect and be entitled to expect that the ministers and the government play honestly. That hasn't happened here. We think that there's got to be an investigation into this whole tawdry issue, and next week we'll be proposing to the Parliament that we set up a select committee to examine exactly what's gone on here. As your reporter correctly identified yesterday, even the Minister's own staff understood that what she was doing was wrong. The only person that seems now not to understand that is the Prime Minister. We've been calling on Minister McKenzie to resign, because I think that's the honourable thing to do. But if she doesn't resign, then we're calling on the Prime Minister to sack her, to stand her down, because what's gone on here is a complete abuse of public accountability. We've seen industrial-scale pork barrelling that's gone on with this $100 million. The Minister ought to act. That's the honourable thing to do. If she doesn't, the Prime Minister must act. And one way or another, we're going to get to the bottom of what's gone on here with this $100 million of public money.
All right, well, just back on this report, because $160,000 seems to be expensive for a report that doesn't really seem to be going anywhere. It also proved inconclusive, and it says it couldn't say whether sports participants had a greater level of well-being than the general population because they engage in hunting and shooting. So was it a waste of money?
Look, it looks very much like it, Peter. I think what's happened, this minister seems to be treating the public purse as if it's her own private cheque account. She's favouring those sports which she herself prefers. She's favouring clubs which she herself is a member of, and of course, as we know, not declaring it. I think all of these issues need to now be referred to a Senate inquiry, and we need to get to the bottom of what's gone on here.
Have you ever been to a shooting club?
No, I haven't, Peter. Look, I've got nothing against shooting. All of these clubs did what they thought was the right thing. The person who's acted improperly here is Minister McKenzie. She's gone, behind the scenes. She's changed all of the parameters for determining who would get these grants. She's given it to her favourite clubs or her favourite sports. Now, that's not the way that this grant system was set up. People thought that they had a fair chance of getting a grant if their application was a good application. And Sport Australia determined that there were hundreds of grant applications that were deserving of support from this $100 million fund. And what did the Minister do? She overturned it all. She overturned all of those grants that Sport Australia, the body that the government itself said was responsible for distributing these grants in the best possible way to get the best value for money. That simply didn't happen. The Minister came in in the lead up to the last election, looked at all of those seats which were marginal Liberal seats, marginal National seats, and independent seats which the government was hoping to win. And that's where the money went. And other clubs who had claims on this money, who Sport Australia thought were deserving, were simply ignored.
Don, I just want to ask you, as Shadow Minister for Tourism, on the spread of the coronavirus. It's having a huge effect, not just in Australia but around the world, economically speaking now. Reports in today's paper suggest we could take a $2 billion hit. Just in your region, the wine region, I should say, can I ask what sort of concerns, specific concerns you might have?
Oh, look, it's obviously a very serious issue, and it's obviously a very dangerous virus. I would hope that it doesn't transfer from humans to vines, but obviously this is. Look, it's going to have an impact. There's no doubt about that.
Well, tourism was I guess, the point I was going to make, and I guess maybe I should ask you: should flights have been stopped sooner from China to Australia?
Look, we've got authorities that know how to handle this in the best possible way. We've had experiences with this before. I think the authorities need to ensure that whatever decisions they're making are in the best interests of the country. I'd hope that that's what's being done at the moment by our medical authorities.
All right. Shadow Sports Minister, Shadow Tourism Minister as well. Don Farrell, appreciate your time this morning. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Peter.